What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about the importance of letting shit go and how you can start to do that more and more so, easier and easier, so you don't get stuck in these mental spirals, these patterns of thinking that just are constantly undesirable, that start to make you then maybe feel envious, jealous, angry, wanting to lash out at other people, blaming, all these types of things that are very characteristic of being in our old mindset, of being cursed. All that kind of stuff is what we're letting go of. And so the importance of dropping things is in putting on who you are in Christ now. And the more that you're able to do that in the here and now reality, the more that you start to see that becoming more and more mirrored into these aspects of your life. And that's why stewarding is really important, where it's just taking a look at everything in your life, your relationships, your marriage, your family, your bills, your finances, your health, all of these key key areas. And instead of like, oh, if the grass was greener, if I only had $1 billion, then I could be happy, which is what our old mind likes to think. It's always this, grass is always greener. But looking at everything that you already have as being a reflection of what you can handle without resistance, well, to start to expand on these things, a big part of that has to be growing what you do have, taking better care of what you have. It's like, why do you need a five-story tall house if you can't take care of a two-story house, for example? And a lot of people think, well, if I just had this dream home, then I could be happy. And it's like, well, why can't you be happy now? More things isn't going to do anything for like more happiness. It doesn't work like that, even though the curse mind thinks it does, and it will keep doubling down on that and doubling down on that little rat race in perpetuity until you finally just had enough of it and go, hey, this is not even how you become happy. And so part of like dropping things, dropping the narratives in your mind, has to do with dropping the matrix programming that's in your cursed mindset. And you do that by examining what is here and now, what is in your life, not to say you agree with it, but to accept it, that on some level your consciousness played a role in it. A lot of people don't want to do that because it's easier to blame other people for their problems, but it doesn't matter what other people are doing. That's part of like a leadership mindset, is you are in the lead, you are setting the pace. So it's like the only person you have to blame in your, like for your family, for example, that's on you. That's not the they out there that's doing this shit. And so, and part of it is letting go of these ideas of this they that's enslaving and dominating you. You give the power and authority to other people. You allow yourself to be that. You can just as easily start telling yourself a new story, and that's all part of like letting shit go. Another good example of like letting stuff go, has to do with our body. And not to make anybody feel like ashamed of what they're doing, but me personally, when I've been like overweight, for example, I just lack of energy, my joints feel like shit, I don't feel good. And so it's important to me to kind of maintain a healthy balance. And with that, last year, I was up to like 200 pounds, which like I haven't weighed myself since I had my hip replaced 2 weeks ago. But I dropped almost 30 pounds, and a big part of that has to do with acceptance, dropping the stories of like, oh, I'm out of shape, I'm unhealthy, I'm this, I'm that, letting those narratives go. And as you put on being blessed right here, right now, being abundant right here, right now, anything that tells you otherwise, that's the unconscious shit that's already manifesting in your space without you being aware of it. And so a lot of times when you go from moving from a state of being cursed to blessed, you're confronted with a lot of the fears and limitations and narratives in your own consciousness that have either, if you get better at it, you can catch them before they manifest, but also everything going on is like a big mirror of your consciousness anyway. And so you can start to then face these different narratives and these stories by physically going through a series of events that are developing your mind to be in that new state of being blessed, even though you are already blessed now. The biggest thing is our failure to believe it. Is what holds these things back from us. And so learning to drop it, learning to let things go. Oh, I just got, in a big argument with some stranger on, on like Twitter because our beliefs are different. And then next thing you know, you're making these big bold claims in your mind of how, well, this entire group of people are just retarded and just whatever. And this is stuff I do. I mean, I don't really care what other people are doing. Whenever I'm talking, this is shit I do. And so yeah, I catch it in my own self though, where it's like, well, why am I making these broad declarations again? Why am I looking at people as being separate? Why am I believing this spell of separation again? And it's a flow. It's like together apart, and then there's maybe some triggering event or person or situation or something, which all of a sudden, oh, then you start to spiral, and then you start to believe, oh, everything I've like put to the test for years now that I've seen with my own eyes be true. Now all of a sudden I just don't believe it anymore for whatever reason, because I'm confronted with a belief that is not in alignment. I'm experiencing it is like some like attack. All of these things are stuff that as you realize that that's what's going on, that you're just being confronted with stuff in your own mind, and your beliefs and your assumptions are being mirrored and puppeted around by your creator to show you these things. Well, then it starts to become like, oh, instead of just unconsciously letting these beliefs and shit just fester and not let them go, not drop them, want to hold on to them, just like, okay, oh, this is who I am and I can't just let this go. Whenever you're confronted with something that's triggering, look at it as a blessing, because you could look at it as a curse and both ways are true. So it's like, it's all about how you're interpreting it. It's all about your stories and the narratives that you're telling yourself about it. And if they aren't in alignment with like truth, then you're just hurting yourself. You're just experiencing levels of suffering that are unnecessary and needless in so many different ways. It's like part of like dropping it, part of dropping these stories and these narratives is dropping and letting go of suffering, that you're holding on to the thing that's hurting you. And it's not till you let it go, you stop thinking about it, you stop being triggered by it, is what I believe actual forgiveness even looks like, is just letting go of this old narrative, the old story, the old assumption, and replacing it with the new. And the hard part is our logical mind, the cursed mind, only believes what the senses say now. And the interpretation is always from past to now. It's not on who you are in Christ here and now, knowing that our consciousness is being externalized and that we're all connected and everything is all part of God's design and God's in control of it. That's a big part of the problem, is our old mindset wants to control every aspect of creation instead of trusting infinite intelligence, which is love, to manifest heaven in your day-to-day life. The more that we're able to let go, to drop these needs to control, wanting everything to manifest according to what we think is real. I was like, well, how can I put on abundance right now if I feel so scarce? And it's like, well, part of it that you feel scarce is you're telling yourself a narrative because something may have happened. And it's like, well, there's the evidence that scarcity is real. And it's like, not realizing that belief is what's holding you at this level of consciousness, that you're demonstrating at this level. And as soon as you let that shit go, without you needing to do something, how is it going to happen? God's just going to bump you up that next level as a direct reflection of your leveling up in your consciousness. It's who you are. And so it's like you don't have to do anything. Part of like, oh, I need to do is part of the slave mentality of I need to force shit myself. I don't depend on the power inherent that God has given me. I'm dependent on me physically moving something from point A to point B. I have to physically do this without any faith whatsoever in divine help. It's all on my own efforting, my own cunning, my own intelligence, my own manipulative tactics, all of these types of things. It's in letting go of those things too that are important. Not to say not to take action. God has given you a brain, a mind, and the ability to discern. So you already kind of know what you need to do anyway. All these are is like a refresher, a reminder for you just to go, oh, stop just sitting on the sideline. Do what is ever inside of you that's been nagging at you to do. Just go ahead and do it. There's what you'll learn through the doing is it's almost so subtle that we almost missed it, and part of like dropping it, letting it go, has to do, I feel like, with pain too, because it's like the more you focus in on it, the more your attention is on the pain, the attention is on the disease, the attention's on the undesirable, the more it starts to grow it, the more then you start to make a story about it, the more you start to like fiddle fuck around with it, because the reality is, if you're law of assumption, if you're embodying health and wellness in the here and now, you wouldn't be focused on these things anyway. It wouldn't even be something you're thinking about. We wouldn't be thinking about healing if you're already healed. When things are working correctly, it's like you're not even conscious aware of like, oh, there was a problem. It's like, oh, how consciously aware of your teeth are you until you get like an achy tooth for some reason? Then it's like your mind is focused on it. Same thing with a headache. It's like you start to focus in on it. It's almost like it amplifies it, and you can and then it becomes a fucking pain in the ass, and you're dealing with it. Then your mind's on it, and then it's like the pain starts getting real loud in your consciousness. But the thing of it is, it's like once you like do whatever healing practice God's shown you how to do, and then just move your attention away from it, let it go, drop it. It'll happen in God's timing. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to worry about the how of it. You just need to work on letting go of like needing to control it, because you're not in control of it. Trusting that God's in control of it, who's better at it than you are, and that it'll happen according to a perfect plan, a perfect timing. And just in that kind of new way of looking at it, you won't remember the exact moment it went away. All of a sudden, you'll just like look back and it's like, oh wait, I had a headache. Now it's gone. I don't remember exact moment that it left, but as my attention was moved away from it, I may have been occupied doing the dishes or dealing with some family drama or something that had nothing to do with my attention on that. Well, then, just through moving the attention, by trusting that God's your healer, that whatever faith healing is going to happen, whether you're taking some medicine for it, whether you're doing some sort of spiritual practice for it, whatever God's let you, like, enlightens you to heal it in whatever form, do your act of faith in that, and then it's in the letting go and dropping it. Then it's like you get led through a series of events, and then look back, and it's like, yeah, I can't tell exactly where it went, when it went. All I know is like it's just gone, and I'm out of that state again. And so a big part of like letting things go, dropping it, is actually dropping the suffering, dropping the pain, dropping the torment, not putting your attention on it, but trusting that God will get you from point A to point B. That's a big part of the evolution of our consciousness, is getting out of I got to force things through my human body, and trusting that there's a higher intelligence that's pulling the strings and is in control of the awakening process. And the more that you acknowledge that, the more that you can start to just put your faith in that, the more you see that as a tangible reality here and now, more and more so, at like more and more levels of awareness of like, well, that's what's going on. And as you do that, the more that you're able to kind of demonstrate the fruits of the Spirit, and aren't demonstrating fear, hysteria, all the fruits of the Antichrist spirit, basically. We get basically shown the fruits of each one. And, it might make more sense through your own life experience when you're like, oh, this is what it's like to feel peaceful. What I feel like it is just not having mental narratives go on. Just being able to be in flow, being able to be present without the mental dramas. And that's what I feel like peace is. Like when I'm in that kind of state, I really enjoy that. But not to get hung up on like, oh, I just want to stay there for eternity and never experience anything else. Whenever something starts to hit your consciousness, it's all about your relationship with God ultimately. And the more that you can let go of this mindset that God wants to punish you and hurt you and make you suffer and like make you like a piece of shit or something that needs to just eat out of trash cans, and all of these kinds of like self-abasing things. Once you realize that maybe God doesn't want that for you, maybe you're listening to the wrong guide, it kind of opens you up to, what does the promises of God actually say? Which I encourage you to get into the Bible and actually learn that for yourself, because until you do, you're just going to be falling under the same sway of whatever maybe more powerful consciousness exists outside of you that kind of can start to influence you to move in a direction that might not be in harmony with what you're desiring, I guess is maybe a way to say it. But not to say that others outside of you are like different. We're all the same in a lot of different ways, but just at different levels of awareness of things. That doesn't make you better or worse because like, oh, I have like 20 years of like awareness on an instrument, for example, where you have 20 years of experience on cooking or something. You know, it's like we all have different focuses and we're all different, all unique in a lot of different ways. But, you know, hopefully that's helpful on some level to get your mind into an attitude of dropping shit, letting it go. David Hawkins had a really influential book, I guess, in my experience, of letting go, The Art of Surrender. Check that book out if you're having a hard time letting shit go, especially letting go of like wanting to control things, especially when you're being confronted with the opposite. It's easy to then backpedal and then start to double down on maybe scarcity beliefs or like your fears, hysterias. It's easy to want to double down. Look at what the world does, as for example, whenever confronted with a fear, a belief, an assumption that's an error, there's a double down. There's like even more freaking like fervent beliefs. It reinforces that shit. But the more that you're able to look at that as like, oh, that doesn't mean what I think it means. I'm being confronted with an opportunity. Again, this is a story that you can tell yourself that's different than a victim mentality thought. It's like, well, I'm being confronted with an opportunity to demonstrate my faith, and I don't need to do anything. I need only to be still, and God will fight this battle for me. I don't need to punish and condemn anybody. God's already dealing with that soul in a process that's perfect for that awakening. I don't got to do anything. I don't need to be the one that does it. You know, almost getting to a point of just like personal powerlessness is very powerful. It's counterintuitive, but in trusting that God does the work, that God is in charge of things, your only job is to be still and, you know, drop a lot of the programming that you were instilled with and realize that you're blessed right now and let God show you what that means. And that's for you to experience in the here and now. And so I just wanted to bring that to you guys' awareness, to your attention. I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I think I'm gonna bounce. I get, you know, better and better on my hips. You know, as I've been able to, you know, you can kind of see the walker in the back. I gotta get the power washer and this paint spray out of this room so I can move my guitars and shit back there. But like, yeah, I'm able to walk without a walker or cane or anything. You know, being able to get around more and more so. Definitely feeling like the hump of like the worst of it's over. You know, I feel in a lot of ways better than before the surgery. Now it's just stretching out the muscles, doing the physical therapy, and you know, I'm looking forward to getting out of the house, you know, doing some things again without having to be babysat, and you know, really happy with the way things have progressed. You know, thank God for the series of events that have led to this healing, you know, in my own life. Really grateful for that. You know, being able to like trust people has been something that I guess I'm being led to experience more of because I've been very trained not to, or programmed not to trust like people. And you know, having surgery, that was like a big letting go of like a lot of like trust issues. And so that's some of the stuff I work on, is like some trust issues. You know, the only thing I do trust, you know, is God. When it comes to people, you know, I feel like it has served me on some level, but it's also a disadvantage on another kind of way of looking at things. And so, yeah, with that being said, I think we're about. So, you know, appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing. Appreciate your spiritual support and your physical, financial support. Thank you for that. Link in the description. I put it to good use. And with that being said, till the next now, God bless.